The verse of the day is Matthew 22:37 through 39. And it says, Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself." If you guys want to know what to do when it comes to following Jesus and building your relationship with God, it's today's verse. It's today's verse. Today is the how-to. Today is the greatest commandment. Today is number one. And if you follow today, the rest goes from there. If you keep your focus on today's verse, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, then you're going to learn how to love your neighbor well. Because if you learn how to love God well with everything you got, you're going to be in alignment with true love, which means anything that's not like love is going to start to fall off of you and get out of your heart, and your heart will start to be more purified and less full of sin. We're still going to fall short and we still have our fleshy ways, right? But the more you love God with all you got and you pursue the heart of God and you pursue living righteously. And what does it mean to live righteously? Living righteously means following the way God calls you to live, not in a way that it's in your strength, but being aware of the parts of you that fall short so you can run to God for that strength. Being aware of when you have unforgiveness, being aware of when you feel bitter and jealous, being aware of when you have lustful desires, being aware of when your heart is struggling with sin. And if you're aware and you pay attention and you use that awareness to run to God for healing and for strength and to be purified and renewed and refined, that's the key. The reason why this is number one, and it's interesting too, today's verse is how you're able to follow the 10 commandments. The first and greatest commandment is love the Lord your God, right? If you do that, the rest of the 10 commandments fall in line with today's scripture. So you're able to follow the rest of the 10 commandments and follow how God calls you to live if you do today's verse first, because this verse gives you the power necessary and the love necessary to do anything else that he needs you to do. So what does it mean to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind? Let's break down the three. So your heart are your feelings and your emotions. Your mind is your thinking and your thoughts. And your soul is your character, where your decision making is had, your conscience, where your actions flow from. You can have a knowing and an understanding and a feeling about something and still do the opposite. I think a good example is you can be aware that smoking is bad for you and know and feel that it's not right, but you can still smoke. So it's making sure that your character and your actions and your decision making, as well as what you're feeling and what you're thinking, all honor God and all put him first, loving him with all three of those things. Loving God first with all of those things is the greatest form of self-love, because that is going to make you become a person of love. This is how you love your neighbor well. This is how you honor your parents. This is how you grow in relationship with your spouse. This is how you choose forgiveness over bitterness. This is how you get healing from resentment and anger and jealousy. This is how you own who you are, separate from the comparison that the world wants you to fall into. This is how you bite your tongue. This is how you practice patience. This is how you endure. This is how you keep the faith and you keep your love on. You have to check your heart, mind, and soul. Loving God with all three of those things. So it's a process and a daily journey of choosing this. It's every day. If I'm having thoughts of worry or self-rejection or self-judgment, Lord, help me to love you first. You created me, which means help me to stop rejecting me. Help me to love me, see me through the lens that you see me. If I'm feeling conviction about a certain behavior, Lord, help me to love you first, to have enough fear of God that I stop doing that thing that I know isn't right for me. Give me the strength necessary in asking God for help where you're struggling, because that's humility, right? And when you run to God for help in the midst of your weakness, that's when his strength comes into play, because his power is made perfect in our weakness. And then maybe with your heart, it's if you're feeling self-doubt, if you're feeling uncertainty, if you're feeling depression, it's running to God in the midst of your feelings again for that strength. I think we have to remember that we live in a sinful world that tries to draw us away from this every single day. The devil wants you to try and get your needs met with your heart, soul, and mind in different ways, in ways that will bring death to your soul and your identity every single day. And this is why we have to make this a priority and run to God on a daily basis, because life is difficult and we have a real enemy after us. We have a real enemy trying to feed us lies, trying to get us to feel things and draw us away from who we were created to be, draw us away from our Creator, so that we can be deceived and not fulfill the purpose on our life, so that we can be bound and not be in alignment with love. Because when we're not in alignment with love, we don't love ourselves well, we don't love our neighbor well, which brings more pain and trauma and heartache into the world. And so the reason why when you put God first and you follow this greatest commandment, that's how you love your neighbor well, because you become a vessel of love. You are now a vessel God can love others through. And if you love others well, the people around you, it ripples into their life and then hopefully ripples from them to others. And that's how you change the world. That's how you change the world with love, because God's love sets people free. It can become a domino effect if all of us were to prioritize loving God with all of our heart, soul, and mind first and foremost every day. I think in my past, in my early walk with God, my greatest fear was, Lord, am I going to mess it up? I know I've messed it up in my past, so I'm scared I'm going to go there again. I'm scared I'm not going to do this relationship thing right, this God thing right. And he, time and time again, made it so simple for me. Focus on the main thing. Make it simple. When you're overwhelmed and things are confusing, that's when you have to go back to the basics. And so remembering that today's verse is your main job, your one and only job. If you prioritize today's verse first, the rest will fall after that. The rest will become effortless after that. It's not to say it will be easy, because you will have to fight your flesh till the day you die. But he gives you the power necessary to do that, and he holds your hand through that. And so today's verse is a great reminder, and I would challenge you to look at yourself and ask, where in my heart can I love God more? Where in my mind can I love God more? Where in my soul, in my choices, in my personality, in what I do, can I love God more? Because if you become aware, that's when you can run to God for help in those places. Ask and you shall receive. When you are aware of your need for God, that's true humility, and fear of God is birthed from humility. Love God well, yourself, and others well will change the world. Okay?